Alright, so we're going to continue Halacha Basar בחלב. We're going to finish Siman Peiches and go on to Siman Peitet. Peiches and Peitet are somewhat similar as far as the harchaka. We're talking about harchakot between Basar and Chalav. We know we can't cook the two together, but we're going to see that the Chachamim made various gdarim, siagim, takanot, however you want to call it, in order to prevent this issue from ever coming about unintentionally. Even though eating basar bechalav together at the same time is not an isur d'oraita, it's only after they have been cooked. Nevertheless, it's at least an isur d'Rabbanan, and it could easily come to an isur d'oraita too, if one is not careful. People make mistakes, people forget the halacha, people forget themselves. It happens even with Birkat Hamazon. Did I just bench or not? You know, what do you mean now? Right, so it's, there's all kinds of issues that can come up. So in Peichet, we went over the halacha of not having on the same table at the same time basar chaya ve'of together with cheese. So the Mechaber says clearly, even though basar chaya ve'of are midrabanan, afilu basar chaya ve'of, you cannot have them. Asul la'aloto, you cannot have them on the al shulchan. Shochel alav gvina. Why shelo yavo lochlam yachad? You shouldn't come to eat them. But if it's on a countertop, if you're not eating at the table, you're just putting things. You just made a cheese pie. You just made a cheese. You have steaks next to each other, whether you cover them with aluminum foil or not. We're not concerned that you're going to come eating together. That's not a place where we eat. In the refrigerator, there's another issue. There's the issue of if things are not enclosed, things are not wrapped, things may spill on each other, and even then it's not going to be the end of the world. It's tzonen, it's cold, but obviously you do want to keep some distance between basar and chalav, even if you're not eating them, or you're not coming to eat them at the same time. You always want to keep them apart. Now, these issues are somewhat discussed in the Gemara, of course. That's what the source, the core of this halacha is. As to what the problem exactly is, you have various opinions which we discussed. And one is Rashi, that if they are close to each other and the milk or the cheese rubs on the meat, or it comes to touch it and some of it sticks to each other, obviously they will be balea from each other, and you're basically mixing two together. The Ran actually says that the main problem is that one will come to actually eat the basar and gvina together. And basar and gvina is not off even. He even goes to the extreme, to the extent of saying that one thing leads to the other, and that the Rabbanan is not the main issue here. It's a Doraita. You may come to, it's not a real Doraita, but you may come to actually gvina and basar together if you allow for these things, even the chicken, to be at the table with the gvina at the same time. So even though it's a Derabanan, remember today for the most part we don't really distinguish anyway between chicken and meat, and that's one can easily make the mistake. So this is a archaka of not having them at the table. For whatever reason, you may eventually come to eat the real forbidden things together. Or as the Rashba says, the real isur is that you actually may come to cook them be'ilfas roteach. Ilfas is a kdera, is a kind of a pot. In other words, he's concerned about the real end result possibility of not just eating them, which is a derabanan, but actually cooking them, which is the real isur. So the Rashba says the whole idea begins with not putting them at the table, even though that by itself is not a problem. Yes, but it may lead to. It may lead to, and that's what we were concerned with. So we began to, I said very briefly, the Shita of Rav Yosef. And we didn't get into it, and I'm not going to get into it too much because we were trying to figure out exactly what is the svara of Rav Yosef. But I'll just briefly explain that sugya does contain a man de amar. Apparently, depends how you learn it, that there is a man de amar that would hold that some of the Rabbanan, or one group of the Rabbanan, depending on which daf you're looking at, would hold that basar off is a sur doraita. In other words, it's not that it's Rav Yosef's shita. It's not that he's the one that holds it, but he's the one that explains it, even though it appears that he goes along with it. He appears to be saying that, of course, according to this man damar that would hold that Basar Of is the Doraita, we will not have a problem of Gzera L'Gzera. Because one of the issues that came up last time was that Asur Le'alot, you cannot place chicken on the table. Because what's the problem? You may come to cook the chicken with the milk. That's also the Rabbanan. And that will lead to, and not having chicken, of course, you can't eat the chicken with milk, is also a Gzera that you should not come to eat meat. So you have a Gzera L'Gzera, which is very unusual, that we should make a Gzera because of another Gzera. I mean, how far do we have to be concerned of remote possibilities? That's what a Gzera means. It's a little bit remote. Okay, so with Rav Yosef, of course, with the Shita of Rav Yosef, which I think has to do with the pasuk, where the diuk over there, as Tosfot explains, the diuk over there is not from Lo Tevashel Gdi so much, but from Lo Tochal Kol Nevela. From Lo Tochal Kol Nevela, even though Rabbi Yossi says, uses that pasuk too when he excludes chicken because it says B'chalev imo, and the chicken doesn't have chalev imo, still Lo Tochal Kol Nevela could be a diuk for the Shita that holds that Of is Doraita too, because wherever there is Nevela, you cannot cook with milk. In other words, we would learn from that. And there's Nevela by a chicken too. So I don't remember all the diyukim here, but it depends on if you learn that Rabbi Akiva, who is the one that makes the whole drush of Lo Tevasher B'Gdil B'Chalev Imo, is he explaining the Rabbanan, or is he as his own Shita? That's really where the whole machloket is, on whether, who holds what. But it's definitely apparent what Rabbi Akiva holds, and he's the one that learns from Lo Tevasher B'Gdil B'Chalev Imo that you have the various diyukim and exceptions, or mi'utim, that you said that it's not chicken, that it's not a chaya, right, and it's not behemoth meya, right? All the diyukim are learned pretty much from that pasuk. So it's a little bit of a big sugya because it spreads out over various datim, and it's a little hard to explain the regel achad on 1/4 exactly who holds what, because it depends on how you ultimately learn. If it's two sets of Rabbanan, one holds that it's a Doraita. As Tosfos points out, there is a Shita. Apparently, Tosfos actually holds like that. There is a Shita that holds Basar Of is Asur Doraita. We don't hold like that. We pass like the Rambam, the passes like Rabbi Akiva, that it's the Rabbanan. But for those of you who are a little concerned, where does he learn it from? Obviously, it's a different way of learning the Drash, or not learning it the way Rabbi Akiva learns it. But it's not so clear, because it depends on if you hold that it's a real machloket, or that Rabbi Akiva is really explaining the other ones, the Manda Omar. In other words, the first Manda Omar in the Tana Kama. In other words, that everything is Asur, Kol Basar. But some are Asur Doraita, and some are Asur Rabbanan. So it depends on how you learn it. So that's why I'd rather not get into that too much. But if you have the time to learn the sugya, it's a very interesting sugya. In Masechet Chulin Daf Kuf Gimel there, Kuf Daled, Kuf Yud Gimel, yes. A man more, an opinion that is expressed in a man the Amar, man, someone, the Amar who has said, which is an opinion, an opinion being expressed over there. Okay, so but as far as we're concerned here, we're learning the Shuchan Aruch. We're pretty much looking at the summary, the final psak. What the Shulchan Aruch did, or what the Rif did somewhat, what the Rambam did, was to take the Gemara and summarize it. Who is the halacha like? What is the halacha? What do we follow? We have various shitot, various opinions, and we want to know what the halacha is. And sometimes the halacha is not so clear from the Gemara itself, or there's a teku, meaning that it remains a question until Mashiach comes, until Eliyahu Navi comes. And sometimes you have two opinions, and one Rishon holds like this one, for some reason one Rishon holds like another one. They're both, of course, acceptable. And that's what we have, Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, sometimes too. Sfaradim following the Rambam, Ashkenazim following Tosafot, with a few exceptions where it's the other way around. That the Ashkenazim follow the Rambam, and the Sfaradim follow Tosafot. So you see the
do we actually have, you mentioned the cross board?
Yeah.
Do you have the Sfaradim follow Tosfos, and so do the Ashkenazim? They would do the same thing? Because
most people think there's such a big division. Most halachot are the same for Sfaradim and Ashkenazim.
And is it a difference?
We're going to see.
When there's a difference,
Sfaradim and Ashkenazim are both going to hold like the Rambam in the next Siman, not like Tosfot. So that would be an example. Good. So we're going to talk about that. Not like Tosfot. And then there are additional differences, of course, minhagim, which we'll talk about also next Siman, between where you come from, Germany, Algeria, as to how many hours you wait. Customs that evolved in the Galut, things that were only clarified in the past 1,000 years. You sometimes wonder what did they do? What did they do during the time of the Beit Hamikdash? There's a difference between the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam.
Yes.
No, it's not of Rabbeinu Tam, but the shita of Rabbeinu Tam.
The shita that Rabbeinu Tam adopted.
Adopted, yeah. And the shita of Rashi, of how the parshiot are laid out in what order. There's others, and there are others. What?
The Gemara.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the question is, you wonder yourself, what did they wear in Beit Rishon?
Both.
So guess what? They found tefillin in Matzada. They dug up the place. They found mikvahs. They found, these were very religious people. That was great. And from what I recall, they opened up and they were according to Rashi. Where?
I don't find out.
Now, what I did read, is that apparently the shita of Rabbeinu Tam was around a lot before him.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Mention in the Gemara.
Again, I'm saying no. Mention is one thing. The question is, was it adapted? Was it work? And apparently it was by some. It could be that some wore two pairs, because the Gemara says, in other words, there is a place on the head to wear two pairs of tefillin back to back. That is, and that is what some people have the small pair. Yeah. Some people wear one, then they wear the other, but some wear it at the same time. They wear. Anyway,
is that good to do that?
Not a problem, as long as you made sure that they were written by good sofer who knows how to write small. Yeah, and they don't, because the problem with the small writing is it may not be 100% kosher, and it cracks with time. More of a problem. The same is true with mezuzot. So I don't recommend small tefillin, and I don't recommend small mezuzot. I don't think it's the best way to go. But if you want to have them at the same time, that's one way to do it. Yeah. So anyway, so you sometimes wonder, what did they do back then? What did they do about cheese and meat and waiting? And how many hours did they wait during the time of Mordechai and Esther b'Shushan Abira? Right? You have one meal after another. Right? So what do you think? So apparently, it does not mean that even though we follow a certain halacha today, that was exactly what was followed back then. Okay? It's not because this is not a deoraita. Remember, it's not a deoraita. Once something is a derabanan, that in itself tells you that it was instituted sometime recently, in the past 1300s, during the time of the Geonim, or during the time when or during the time that an issue came up, a problem arose. Other than that, halacha, when it's the right, it's a tzvah. Obviously, this was that's what the Mishnah and Gemara is all about. It was elaborated on already before, and with a few things that were left for the Geonim to clarify. Geonim is a very important era. After you have Tanaim, you have Amoraim, you have Rabbanan Savarai, then you have the Geonim, which pretty much compiled everything and clarified whatever needed to be clarified. Some even say that some of their words were written in the Gemara to the earlier Geonim.
But that's how you meant it. It sounded no rabbinical decrees.
No.
Exactly.
There was always rabbinical decree, even from the time of David HaMelech. Isur Yehud.
So that's why I was wondering what you were trying to actually say when you were trying to say something. I'm not sure what it was.
No. What I'm saying is that rabbinical, some rabbinical decrees or some rabbinical halachas, ordinances, came about in the past 15 to 1800 years, I should say, not 1200, even a little bit more, because we're talking about the time of Amoraim or Tanoim. Whereas that particular question may not have been a question during the time of the Second Temple era, or for sure not Bayis Rishon. Remember, Bayis Rishon, you don't even have a siddur. Life was very different for a Jew. You didn't have Shachrit Mincha and Arvit. You didn't even have a minyan. You didn't have necessarily Kriyat Torah on Mondays and Thursdays. Life was very different back then for a Jew.
And they had Fitzat HaDerech, which also...
Yeah. Now they had a Beis HaMikdash. They had Aliyah L'Regel 3 times a year. The life of a Jew has changed very much, and it's all min hashamayim, by the way. Because we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, because there's a Yerida in Dorot, we have become weaker. Because of the distance from Sinai, the Chachamim, of course, through Ruach HaKodesh, through Nevuah, right? And through bat kol was a heavenly voice. There are various ways where they understood that this is what needs to be adapted now. This is what needs to be done. This is the new system of observance. The Torah hasn't changed. Let's say we have the same 630 mitzvot, even though some don't apply today because we're not in Eretz Yisrael, there's no Beit HaMikdash or so forth. But the way we conduct ourselves as a Jew during the day, from the morning till the evening, is quite different. We wake up in the morning, Modani lefanecha. We make netilat yadayim. Back then, during Beit HaMikdash, there was netilat yadayim for a lot of other things. There was tumah tahara. You had to be concerned about touching your pets, if you had a pet, especially if it's a dead animal. And there were other concerns and other issues. Right? Oh, there's so many. It was just, life was so different.
Was actually Tumah Tahara also for Israel?
Even for a regular Israel, yeah. It was more for a Kohen, right? And it was more for a Kohen who was going into the Beis HaMikdash even, right? But it was even for an Israel who may have had to do with korbanot, if he had to bring a korban, if he was entering the Beit HaMikdash, if he was not clean, if he had keri, right? How far could he go? Yeah, there's tevilah, sure, yeah. It all depends on, you were inviting a friend according to eat by you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, is this kosher for me?
I can't even made out that.
Yeah, they were careful. They had to be very careful, sure. They had to be careful with kelim that they borrowed from a neighbor. Can they borrow those kelim to grind, to make bread? Maybe those kelim are tameh. Anyway, life was very, very different. So you sometimes wonder, here's basar bechalav, here's how many hours did they wait? Why are we asking? Why are we considering this? Obviously, certain issues became problems later on. For example, now we're discussing lo la'alot basar ala shulchan shochlim gvina. Was this a problem during the time of Yeshua? Think about it. Did Yeshua allow himself to have chicken and meat at the same table? Cheese and meat at the same table. And the answer may be yes. He didn't see it as a problem. Why? Because they were much more careful, they were cognizant, they were aware, they didn't think of mixing it, they would not come to that. When the Rabbanan said certain things, is that they were seeing Yore Deah badorot, they were seeing how people, Torah mishtakachat mi'Yisrael, that is why they wrote down the Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebal Peh, the oral word was not written. It was oral for many, many years. Yehuda Nasi composed the Mishnah, put it together, that is the basis of Torah Shebal Peh. So we're seeing, they're making analysis, they're seeing the situation. Wait a minute, how late can he pray Ma'ariv? Well, if we allow him to pray till the early morning, he's going to forget, he's going to fall asleep. Let's make it till Chatzot. Before that wasn't a problem. Then, later on, they had to make it halacha. It became a halacha. Not that it wasn't never a halacha before. It was not necessary to even say that. In the case of Ma'ariv, it was really not a halacha altogether because it wasn't applicable so much. A person got up and prayed once a day, perhaps, in his corner, and he didn't even know how to express himself. He was using a safai leget. Safai leget means he was not fluent. They came back from Babylonia, they spoke a mixture of Aramaic, Lashon Kodesh, and some other dialects. They couldn't express themselves in one language. Like Spanglish. They couldn't. The Chachamim came and said, let's make a sidur, a seder. Let's organize it, right? And let's tell people what to say, which blessings to say, from the morning till the evening, what time of the year, holidays, blessings of Etz, Adama, Mezonot. These things you didn't have before. It's interesting. If you think about it, these things you did not have before. But they are necessary. They're necessary because people can easily get themselves into trouble if they don't watch out. So in the beginning of Peichet, let's go back real quickly and review it. What we have is the halacha about putting them on the same table. That's a problem. Some say it's not called a gzera legzera. Why is it not a gzera legzera? Because it's really one gzera, because the way Rashi reads is that if you put the chicken on the table, you'll come to put the meat with the cheese at the table and eat it, and cook it. So the meat and cheese at the table is almost automatic. You're automatically going to come and cook it together. In other words, there's always that chance that you're skipping a step here. It's not a real zera, it's one zera. Or, as the other Meforshim learn, yes, in Basar B'chalav they allowed the gzera legzera. Some say, yeah, this is an exception. Right? The Ran was another shita is that he says that here you needed the gzera legzera because if you didn't allow for the decree of not to put the chicken on the same table with the cheese, people would not be careful. If you allow, in other words, if you allow those two at the table, people would actually go ahead and eventually make the mistake of eating them. So therefore he says, you need one gzera to strengthen the other gzera. Okay, different explanations for the same thing. We spoke about that even though meat and milk should not be put at the same table, if somehow the goy is eating lunch at your table and he's eating his tray food, it's not a problem because we're not so concerned that you'll come to share food or that you'll come to eat his food, as we will see in the next seif. With isurim, except for chametz, one really has to be a little bit more careful. Chametz and Pesach, you don't want the goy to be near you. You don't even want him to bring his stuff, his lunch, into your home. Let him eat in the backyard. Yeah, not in your house. You clean your house from chametz. You can't force him to buy matzah, not how he can eat whatever he wants. But you do want to keep a distance. From what? You tell him, listen, I can't have your food in my home. Even though it's his, it's not yours, and you're not over on his chametz, but maybe once it's in your house, it could come in contact with your food. And besides, anything left over maybe belongs to you. What do you do if you get cereal in the mail, free samples on Pesach?
Oh, that they did.
Yeah,
a few years ago.
right. You get cereal. Yeah. Obviously, it says you don't want to be makabel it. You don't take ownership of it. You can't force it on you, but it's still got to get rid of it. Yeah.
So the karka should be kohen kavana?
The what?
The karka should.
Yeah, you can't force somebody. You can't.
I don't know. Something is there.
Yeah. Even though chatzero shel adam koneh, that's true. But not to be over an Isser. Not to be over an Isser. No. Yeah, not to be an over an Isser. You can't force it. I'm going to make it. You're going to make you be over an Isser, but no, that you can't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Aruch HaShulchan actually brings down that the Mechaber, in mentioning or in quoting the words of the Rambam, "Afilu basar chayav ovasulat al shulchan shulchan lavgina shelo yavo leochlam yachad," in saying those words, he is indicating that there's actually an additional reason why there is a problem of putting it together. It's not necessarily like Rashi says that they may touch, but it's just an archaka. In other words, it's an additional explanation that even though it's only also midrabanan thereof, since these are things that are common that people eat all the time and people may have them in close proximity, the Chachamim made an additional archaka of not putting them at the table. In other words, not because of necessarily because of what Rashi says. All right. That was pretty much the first seif. Rashi was the one he was concerned by them being close to each other. They will be sticky. They will be absorbing from each other. They will be touching. And you'll be eating them together. We did, by the way, mention that even though it's a halacha later on in Basar B'Cholov, that if it's in the same box, you're shopping, you have some meat from the butcher, you have some cheese from some grocery store, it's okay for them to be in the same bag, especially if they're closed. So therefore, based on that halacha, l'chora, if you were to have a bottle of milk, a carton of milk at the table while you're eating chicken, you're not going to eat it. It's just there. It's not going to be a problem because it's closed. Yeah, because it's closed. We're not concerned. We don't have Rashi's concern here, right? Apparently, when something is exposed, it's more of an issue. If something's closed, even a glass of milk, especially if it's closed, if it's open, maybe it's less of a problem. We're also concerned. Remember, when things may spill, things may splash from one to another, whether it's in the fridge or whether it's outside. So you always want to keep a safe distance between the two. But as far as the issue of putting them on the table, if they would be in a carton or something or a bag, for sure that's not a problem. Right. That as far as that, we're going to see that in the next seif. What happens when two people are eating two separate kinds of meal? Right? Isn't there a concern about that? But as far as the issue of putting them on top of the shulchan, for yourself right now, and one is closed, are you going to... No, we're not concerned about that they're going to come in contact with each other, that we have to be gozer igzera. However, there's still harchakot of another kind, which we're going to learn now, very important harchakot, that a person may make a mistake and share when there's somebody else sitting across the table from him. That's a separate idea. What? Yes. That's apparent. Huh? That's the chashash, yeah. Right. Basar b'chalav, in general, we learned that, as the Shach says, I think, people are careful. People are generally careful by themselves. And we actually brought up an interesting question. What happens if somebody just ate the meat? Now he wants to make cheesecake. Or even a balabasta, right? You want to make a cheesecake. You want to make a pizza. You're not going to eat it. Can you do it when you just ate meat? You just ate meat. You may come to taste, right? You may come to taste. Are you allowed to do it? So I saw somebody write that if you ordinarily always taste your food, you got to have somebody remind you. If you don't ordinarily taste your food, you're not one of these chefs that do I need to add more sugar? Then it's okay. We don't have this harchaka, this additional harchaka. It would be another gzera, right? So in here, it's not even at the same time. Remember, it's not so much at the same time. So you don't really have the problem, because there are some say you can eat milk right after you eat, since we have that shita. So technically, you don't have to make a gzera for that. But if somebody is a chef and he always tastes his food, obviously he needs some sort of reminder. We spoke about some. No, should we make a gzera and tell him, oh, you just had a meat dinner? You can't make cheesecake just yet. You may come to eat from it. Well, even if he did, it's not the end of the world. So there's no we don't have to make a gzera for that. We have a gzera on the same table, maybe, right? But not if he just made, if he ate one and he's making something different. Okay, before we go to the second half, or the second CE, we spoke a little bit about salt shakers. As you know, customarily today, traditionally, we have separate dishes, of course. We have separate salt and pepper shakers. You don't really have to have. You can have one set of salt and pepper shakers for Melichas, for fleishiks, for me. The reason why some people are machmer, it's a good chumrah, is in the olden days, the salt and pepper shakers were not closed to the top. What you had was salt in a dish where you dipped food. And since it was open, you may dip, and you may leave over some of the shamnunit, some of the fats or leftover of the basar, in that salt, for dairy. So if they're closed, you don't really have that problem. The reason why some people are still machmir, even if they're closed, the salt and pepper shaker, is because maybe some of the fat of the meat will stick on the outside, and it will come to touch the dairy. We're pretty clean today. I don't think we have that problem, but we generally, we try to have a separate set of everything.
Isn't there also a problem with steam, let's say, from a hot soup?
No. The only problem with anything in the salt is things falling into the salt, where eventually you may use the salt either to salt meat or to put it into a tafshil. That salt, you may add some salt into a tafshil, right, that may contain some of the kutach, some of the cheese, or some of the dairy dishes. Yeah, that's the concern. But if it's closed, it's less of a problem.
While you're salting it, you're holding hot soup.
No, that was never the problem. The steam was not a problem.
Steam is not a problem.
Altogether, we learned in Taaruvot that steam would not be so much of a problem, especially steam from a soup which is not even yad soledet anymore. Really, it's even less of a problem. That was never the concern. In Seif Bet, in Siman Peiches, Hode asur le'aloto ala shulchan dafka b'shnei bnei adam ha'makirim ze et ze. I think the Chochmas Adam says here, you're familiar with the Sefer Chochmat Adam? Anyway, on Yore Deah, he says that apparently this is an additional isur. In other words, he's not only explaining Sif Aleph, he's actually telling you that there is an additional isur, additional detail of where we would have to make an archaka. And the archaka concerns two individuals. So he says like this. It depends, of course, who these two individuals are. We were talking about one individual here in the first seif, even for one person himself. Or here he says, obviously, the example that Mechaber has in mind is you have two people, one is eating meat, one is having a dairy dinner, and they two know each other. They're brothers, very close friends. They're used to eating together. That's where you have a problem. Even though they're makpid on each other, not to touch each other's food, not to share, they're completely independent of each other. But because they're comfortable, because they know each other, it may just happen that they may share food, they may mix food, they may unintentionally grab the wrong food. So obviously what we see here is that this is an additional halacha that concerns not only one person, but also two people who know each other. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the outdoor.
All right.
Like the benches, they're split into two.
Right, that's what this question is all about. Exactly. Now, in one restaurant, you will not have dairy and meat. You have to have two kitchens. You have to have a separation.
Well, it's two separate.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, in his example, it would be that it's not in the restaurant. It's just that it's outside, right? And you're having people order from different things, different dishes, adjacent to each other, or you go to a picnic too. It can happen anywhere. You can happen anywhere. People have something they brought themselves. Just something different. That is, one is milk and one is the meat. So the Mechaber says that aval achsanaim, two guests, achsanaim, she'en makirin, they don't know each other. Mutar, there's no problem. We're not so concerned. We don't have to worry that they're going to come mixed. V'afilo makirim. Now, this is the chidush here. Afilo those who are makir, they know each other, brothers, husband and wife. They're both in the mood of eating something different. Imasu shum heker, as long as they have a heker on the table, some sort of separation between the two, some plant, something that is not ordinarily there. Even bread, as long as it's not ordinarily there. Now, a bottle of water is a little bit different, as we will see, than a piece of bread, a loaf of bread. So he says like this: Imasu shum heker, shekol echad ochel al mapa shelo. Now, the Mechaber says each one eating on his own mapa. And his own mapa means on his own placemat. Not everybody holds like that today, because today mapa placemats are very, we're used to that. So that may not be, according to some, the Mechaber says that this would be a heker, this may not be sufficient. Even though that's what he says, he's pretty much saying mapa placemat, unless he meant mapa, a real tablecloth. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what he meant. So if it's a real big tablecloth, maybe for sure it's a big heker, each one with his own tablecloth. Maybe. But if mapa could also mean a placemat, some are of the opinion that it would not be sufficient heker. But he says like this: if each one has his own mapa, wafilu ochlim al mapa hat, they're on one mapa, one tablecloth apparently. V'notnim benehem pat lekera, bread as a heker is sufficient.
They'll come to share the bread?
No. It serves as a heker. Now let's see the Ramah.
Yeah, they not eat that.
Exactly. Davka she'en ochlim min apat. In other words, that we're not concerned that they will eat from the bread. In other words, the bread is not there for them to be eating from. It's just there for a heker. אבל אם אוכלים ממנו, of course, לא have a heker. It's not a heker. The בלאו הכי, הפת שאוכלים ממנו מונח על השולחן. Okay. In other words, it's just sitting at the table. It's not going to help them anymore if they're going to eat from it. But if they put a jar of water that they drink from it, jar of water is a little different. Usually this jar of water is not there. It will be a heke even though they drink from it. With a jar of water, it's not as a big deal. According to the Bach, the Shach brings down that it's not a heke if they drink from it. But we hold, like the Beis Yosef, like the Ramah, that if it's something is not ordinarily on the table, it's good enough even if you drink from it. Bread is different. Bread you may come to eat together the other person's food.
If you drink from it, milk.
No, you're just going to pour in your glass. It doesn't mean that you actually both drink. That's right. That's what it means by a jar. Of course, if you put a lamp or something like that, a plant, have a heker. He says, be careful not to drink from the same bottle. Here he says that. Like you were about to say, because the food gets stuck to the keli. Obviously, you have to be careful not to eat from one bread. That is why we put a salt shaker for each one separately. Because sometimes you dip in the salt, and some of the food is left over in the salt. So that is basically the second seif in Siman Peiches concerning the various halachotas. Now, if you learn Halakhot Niddah, or Halakhot Yichud real briefly, there are halachotas between a husband and a wife during the time that a woman is unclean, that he has to be careful with. Because of similar issues that he may come to do something unintentional, it could be very, very wrong, a big issur. Right? So that's what the halachotas in Niddah are very, very important. But some of those halachotas are not necessarily always applicable if other people are there, and depending on the circumstances, depending exactly what it is. There are various details as to when you have to be machmir, be strict, and when not. Take an example, Hilchot Yichud. You know what Yichud is? Ever since the story of Amnon and Tamar, you know who Amnon and Tamar was? Amnon and Tamar were half brother and sister, both children of David and Melech, but not from the same mother. And they were children of Yefat Toar. Yefat Toar, as you know, is a woman who, a king or any other Jew actually, takes at the time of war. They're not Jewish, but they have converted. And they're given a chance to remain Jewish or to eventually leave. Anyway,
She didn't come to be Jewish.
What is that?
She converted because she wanted to be. Get married with her. So that the reason that she converted. It's not like today.
Well, obviously, yeah. But anyway, the thing is, you notice, somebody asked me a question, how could Adoniyahu and Avshalom be such rebellious children? David and Melech is their father. They're perfectly 100% Jewish mothers and everything. But that's a different topic. It says that he didn't rebuke them enough. I explained that perhaps he didn't have enough time. He was a very, very busy man, David. But that's not the only thing, is that there are some children who have a big Yetzer Hara. What can we do? And they need extra watching over them. And they know when there's politics, which there was during the time of Avshalom and David, each one wants to be king. It's all in Hashemayim too. It's a big challenge, and unfortunately he had to go through this experience. But with Amnon and Tamar, it was a little bit different. And Amnon raped Tamar. He claimed he was sick one day, and he wanted her to make him breakfast, take care of him, And that's when, of course, he committed his crime, his sin, which was, of course, out of the taiva, the desire. And we learn in Pirkei Avos that kol ahava shetluya bedavar, batel davar batel ahava. Any love that is, or passion, that is based on not altruistic love, but based on something physical, once that physical goes away, the love will fall apart. If the love is pure and sincere and is not based on the physical, on the passion, and just physical attraction, then there's a chance that this love can last forever. So friendships, relationships, of course, should be based on the real things. So his love for her was not pure. It was a passion. And once that passion was satisfied, he hated her guts. The rabbis tell us his hate for her was greater than his love for her. Anyway, we're not getting into too much of the details of what she did to him and what happened. It was, of course, a tremendous shameful act. Ever since then, they were goizer. They made a decree that there should not be yichud, even with a pnuya, even with a single girl. In other words, there was always an issue of not having yichud with a married woman. What does yichud mean? That a man cannot be with another woman, with a woman who is not his wife, his daughter, his sister, his mother, or even his grandmother. If it's one of those very close relatives, we don't have a concern that he's going to commit an affair with them, even though there's some crazy people in this world that have committed acts of incest with their own kid. Hashem Yishmor. These are crazy people. Most people don't do crazy things like that. But the Chachamim were concerned about things that may happen, that have happened, and may happen, unfortunately. And Arayas is a tremendous, dangerous area where nobody can say, it's not going to happen to me. A lot of great people fell, or almost fell, succumbed to their evil inclination because of Arayas. So nobody can even ever say, it's not going to happen to me because I have a long beard, or wherever, the beard won't protect you. Some people are amazed, how could this rabbi commit this? And I tell them, you don't think that rabbi has a Yetzer Hara? His Yetzer Hara is even bigger than yours. Kol hagadol mechavero, yitzor gadol mimenu. The greater a person is, the more challenges he has, the more temptations he may have. And depending on his makeup of his character and temperament, he may be, who knows, he may have a weakness in that area. So the Chachamim, David HaMelech saw this problem and they said, not even with a pnuya, even though she's single, not married, and technically you can marry her, so what's the big problem? There's no real avera unless she's a Niddah. It's still also because it's znut. It's without kiddushin, without chuppah, man cannot be with a woman, right? Nevertheless, it's not like an eshet ish, like a married woman. So what's the halacha by married woman? Married woman, let's say you're a contractor, you want to give her a bid, you want a kitchen remodel, yes, but my husband is not home. Then what do? You have to leave the door open. This is during the day. During the night, Late at night, even if the door open, it's not good enough because people don't go by. Unless her husband is in town and she's afraid her husband can step in any moment, that would be okay then. So that's the halacha with yichud. What if you have not one man and a woman? What if you have 2 or 3 men with a woman? Some say it's okay then. If they're ksherim, if they're ksherim, good people, religious people, they don't mess around. Once you have 2, 3 people, some say 2, some say 3, depending on if it's no, it has nothing to do with it. It all depends on if it's night or if it's day. You want the more people you have, the better it is, because the guy's going to say, "What are you doing?" Right? Less of a chance that it will happen. But what if it's one man with 2 or 3 women? Some say it's not good enough. One man with 2 or 3 women, he still may. The only time you would allow one man with 2 women or 3 women, or one man with 1 woman, even, is if that one man's wife is with him. Unless it's a goy. If it's a goy, even if his wife is with him, they don't care. It's incredible. The goyim don't care. So even if the goy's wife is with him, she won't mind. She says, "You know what? You have your fun. I'll have my fun later." Yeah, that's what they think. They're crazy. They don't have kedoshim tihiyu. They don't have this concept. So by us, we have to be very, very careful. So if you have this precaution of more women or more men, of course, there may be room for leniency. So these are all halakhot. All are very important halakhot in the area of yichud, the area of arayot. Arayot is an area where you have to be very, very careful. And no halakha is too much. The rabbis tell us, be careful with how you look at a woman. Don't wink to her. You're asking for trouble. It's fire. Okay, so we finished Siman Peichet, right? So we're going to briefly, just for a few minutes, I don't want to hold anybody up, but just for a few minutes to go into Siman Peichet, a very interesting siman about eating one after another. Okay, so we don't have a problem with eating them together now, but what could be the problem of eating them one after another? Anyway, before I go to the next siman, I was going to mention that there's a Pischei Tshuva here that says, because we're talking about more people, the better, there's a Pischei Tshuva that says if you have various people eating with you, then you could be mekel. You know how we were saying that if you know each other, it's a problem. If you don't know each other, then it's okay. But if you have more people around, that some say you could be mekel. Or if you're sitting very far apart, a very big table, one is here and one is over there, a long table, then you don't have to put hekerim either, because the chances of there being ever a problem are remote. What? No, not 2 tables. 1 table, but it's you can.
One seat there, one seat.
It's too far for you to reach out. Then it would not be a problem.
One table,
yeah. Okay. So in the next Siman Peichet, we'll go into this next week. There's a lot of very interesting details in this siman that we'll talk about. But just briefly, Shelo lechol gvina achar basar. So what does he tell you? You cannot have cheese after you've eaten meat. In the same siman, however, we will talk about what about if you first ate cheese, can you eat meat right after that? Okay? But the beginning is the ikar. The beginning, the older hakot that we will see, the halachas that pertain to waiting several hours, are especially true when you ate meat. How much do you have to wait till you eat meat? Even though the other way, there may be some waiting to do as well. Some harchaka. Achal basar, you ate meat, afilu shel chaya ve'of. Do you charge the Rabbanan? The halacha is, he brings out what the Rambam holds, what the Rambam basically wrote. It's not what he holds, it's the Gemara. If you ate meat, even if it's a chaya of off, lo yochal gvina acharav. You don't eat cheese right away. Ad sheishhe, until you wait, shesh sha'ot. Rambam says 6 hours. Even if you waited that 6 hours, if you still have meat left over, use a toothpick, use whatever you can, remove that meat. However, I shouldn't say however. I mean, according to the Mechaber, even if you chew, you take something, little children, if you recall, you sometimes want them to eat something that's too hard for them to chew. You chew it for them. If you chewed it and you didn't swallow it, according to this sheet, you would have to wait. Okay, so now we have to understand what's going on over here. What is the problem? This is obviously taken for the Gemara too. This is taken from the Gemara in Chulin Kufhei, that one has to wait. And without going through the whole sugya, what appears to be what is required there is that one wait till the next meal. Don't have it in the same meal. Wait till the next meal. The Gemara really doesn't say the reason for it. That's what's interesting. The Gemara doesn't. You have to look at Rashi as to what the problem is, or you have to look at the Rambam as to what the issue is. From the Gemara itself, it doesn't appear to be that, what's the big deal? I'm not cooking them together. Why can't I have them? I have hors d'oeuvres, meat. Chinese or Persian. Hors d'oeuvres, And for the main course, lasagna. Why not? We're not eating them together. We're having a separate course. So if you look at just the Gemara says you had meat for lunch. The next time you can have milk is for dinner. Seudah heret. Now, since Seudah heret usually is 6 hours later, think about it. You ate lunch 12, 6 hours later is dinner. That's where the 6 hours is taken from. It's not that the Rambam came up with it on his own. It's based on the Gemara. Even though the Gemara doesn't say Sheshaot, that's what was meant. What was meant that L'Seudah Achrita, L'Seudah Achrina, for another Seudah, the next Seudah. At least that's the way the Rambam understands. Not everybody agrees with the Rambam, because who's to say that I have to wait till the next meal that is fixed every day, dinner? Maybe Seudah Achrita means the next meal if I want to have a meal an hour later too. Maybe just that means that in the same meal I cannot have it, but I can have it in another meal as long as I said I benched and I want to have another meal now. The reason why the majority of the world follows the Rambam is because that's what's really understood by the majority to mean. What Mar Zutra there meant. That, in other words, one second, did I mention the name right? I'm sorry, not Mar Zutra, it was Mar Ukva. Yeah, not Mar Zutra, Mar Ukva. Where he was saying over there, my father says, anytime he had meat one day, he didn't have milk till the following day. But that was an extra chumrah. That is only what his father did. And some are going to claim that even Mar Ukva himself, what he did was for himself. He didn't mean to tell us that this is the halacha. He meant to say for himself he was careful. But in reality, perhaps, once I wash my hands, clean my mouth, I can have dairy right away. So right now we're focused on what? Dairy after meat. We're not focused on the problem, if any, having meat after you had a piece of cheese. That doesn't seem to be the same kind of a problem. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem here is Rashi says that if you have meat, you ate meat, then you have shuman. You have fats that is nidbak, that somehow it sticks to you, and the flavorings, ma'arich betamo, continue to last for a while. That's Rashi. Rashi is the only one that says that. That somehow there's fats in the mouth, somehow it's still there, somehow it doesn't go away right away.
It's still the Rabbanan.
Of course, it's still right. But that's what Rashi says. No. If it would be a digestive issue, then what would be the difference between having cheese first and then meat? They would be both sitting at the same time in your system. It has nothing to do with digestive.
Digest much slower.
No, you just had a glass of milk. Within 5 minutes, you can have steak.
The burping phase.
Well, obviously, it could be. That's what Rashi is also means. That ma'arich beta'amo. What you're saying is somewhat right too, because once you've eaten meat, it's not only a problem with the mouth; it's a problem with the system too, because it takes longer to digest. So you're right. The whole idea of having absorbed the meat is that the shuman in the mouth, the shuman in the system, the flavor is still there. Ma'arich beta'amo. There's still something there. But it's not just something in the stomach. It's something even in the mouth, because of having eaten meat. Tosfos brings down, and sometimes Tosfot has various shitot. Within Tosafot, you have the first opinion, then you have Rabbeinu Tam, or some other Tosafot saying something maybe even different than the first opinion. So this is the first opinion Tosafot that he understands from the Gemara that the Rabbanan lo plug. Lo plug means that they did not distinguish. And when they said that you may have milk in the next meal, they did not necessarily mean too much later. Even right away. So Tosfot does not understand it like the Rambam. So they meant the next meal, they meant literally the next meal, whenever that next meal may be. You don't have to wait till the evening. As long as you clean the table, you benched, of course. He said it's really a different meal completely. No, he does say that. It has to be a different meal. According to this opinion, you've had to bench, it has to be a different meal. You know what's interesting about this, we will be discussing it next week, is there's a lot of questions. What happens? You ate meat. When do you count the 6 hours, by the way? From the time you finish benching, or from the time you finish eating the cholent? My daughter sometimes asks me, Motzei Shabbat, Abba, can we have milk now? When did we finish eating? So the calculation is really from the time you finish the meat. You don't have to calculate 6 hours from the time you bench. Okay? So that's another thing that we will be discussing about, issues that come up like that. What happens if you're having a meal and you fell asleep? Okay? You didn't bench yet, but 6 hours went by. So here we're saying that you have to bench. You have to finish the meal. These are the kinds of questions that we will discuss next time that have come up in the Shelot U'Tshuvot. If there is an insistence on not having it in the same meal, what if you didn't finish the meal? Yeah, but it's already completely digested, right? So maybe we don't have to, in that case, wait that much. We don't have the concerns that the Rambam says, or Rashi, or whatever. Okay, so that's Tosfot. So Tosfot is the one that's going to hold of the opinion that you don't really have to wait for a meal in the evening. It could be almost immediately. Rabbeinu Tam and the Bahag hold that it's enough that you wash your hands and you cleanse your mouth, you rinse your mouth. You'll be able to eat right after meat, even in the same meal. This is the one opinion that holds, just rinse yourself up, there's no problem. What about Mar Ukva himself? Oh, Mar Ukva, either he did it to himself, only that he waited, either it was a chumrah for himself, or Mar Ukva actually, the reason why he waited was because he had not rinsed himself. He did not clean himself. He did not have some schnapps after them, in other words, to properly cleanse himself. And that's why he waited. But whenever he did, he would not wait. It's either one of the two.
Authority in the morning?
Yes, yeah. An important one of the important authorities that brings down this halacha. Yeah. Rambam paskins that you have to wait 6 hours, because that's what Mar Ukva meant. Miseuda leseuda. He takes it very, and that's the Shuchan Aruch paskins. We will see the Ramah. The Ramah brings down various shitot, but in the end, even though the Ramah is lenient, me'ikar hadin, right? In the end, he says everybody's machmer today. I saw something very interesting. I saw the lashon, of the Marshal. Look at here. Listen to this lashon. The Ramah at the very end, which we'll do it next week, go through the whole Ramah. The Ramah says at the very end, "V'chen nachon la'asot." This is the correct thing to do. We all wait 6 hours, no matter where you come from, which country you come. That's the right thing to do. So the Shach brings down, "V'chen katav Marshal." "D'ken ra'u la'asot lekol mi sheyesh bo reach Torah." Whoever has the reach of Torah in him, he's a God-fearing person. That's what he should. This is the sheet that he should follow. He shouldn't be. But the reason why we need to know all the halachas and the core for the halachas is because what do you do with a child? Do you have to be makpid for a child too? What happens if somebody's sick? Can you wait only an hour? You see what I mean? So once we understand that the various halachot and shitot, where they come from, what's the reason behind them, we will understand that in some cases you can be lenient. So just to finish up for today, let's just understand what are the basic shita. The shita of Rashi is the shita that because the Shuman and the Tam Basar is going to be there present for a while, right? That's one shita. The Rambam says that it's understood from the Gemara that a pasuk is quoted that it's the Basar ben Ashinaim. So the shita of the Rambam is not what Rashi says. It has to do with meat being actually present in the teeth. Meat enters the teeth. Now, what does that mean? It means that after 6 hours, if any meat is still there, it's not even called meat. It's completely either it's digested or it's not considered meat. So if you look at the Pri Megadim, you will see something very interesting, that based on these Shitot, Rashi and the Rambam, you will have a Kula and a Chumrah according to each one of them, depending who you follow. Now before I tell you what they are, from the Mechaber itself, you can see from his words that we are considering both Shitas, both Chumras, so no matter how you hold, what the reason is, we hold like both. I mean, in other words, you will see that whether Rashi is right, in other words, that explanation given, or whether the Rambam's explanation, we adopt both explanations, and that's why we adopt all the Chumrot. So what would be the difference between the two of them? According to Rashi, if you would chew for a baby, you would chew the meat, you wouldn't swallow it wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't have a little bit of chewing, you wouldn't have so much time. You didn't swallow it. You don't have it in your system, like you were saying. Some say, by the way, I forget who it is, let me see if I wrote it down here. Some say that even according to Rashi, it would be a problem, le'isa, because there may still be something in the mouth, just from chewing. But it's understood that Rashi would not be so machmir on le'isa. On just chewing, you didn't swallow it? Why should you wait 6 hours? According to Rashi, it doesn't appear that there would be a need for that. According to the Rambam, from chewing, there may be basar ben hashinaim. You may still have meat. Now, by the way, when you have that meat, ben hashinaim, do you have to remove it? That would be the other question.
You mean after the time interval?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
I would think so. So past if the substance.
According to the Rambam, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Because of the...
It's not going to, it's called basar. According to Rashi, if you have meat left over in the teeth, you have a separate problem. In other words, you may no longer have it in your system, but you have meat there. That meat, I never said that meat is not meat after 6 hours. The Rambam's saying that. In other words, the Rambam seems to be saying that 6 hours has to do with the meat that was there, that is no longer there after 6 hours, but it's there. No, you don't have to worry about it then. According to Rashi, you would have a separate problem if you would have to still clean up your mouth. And that's what we do anyway. We clean up our mouth regardless. Even after 6 hours, if there's meat there. If there's meat, you have to remove the meat. Exactly. We hold that we are machmir like the two of them. Now, what would be a kula according to the Rambam and not according to Rashi? Chicken soup. If you had shuman, if you ate shuman fat, not meat. According to Rashi, you still have the shuman in your system. It's in your mouth. It's in you. According to the Rambam, you don't have basar ben hashinaim. Interesting. According to the Rambam, lichora, I'm saying this lichora based on what I saw, that according to the Rambam, you wouldn't have to wait if you had schmaltz. You didn't have basar. Because he says the whole issue is basar ben hashinaim. And by the way, what's the problem of having meat in the teeth? It's a hachaka of not having to eat the two together. I mean, think about it. Even we will explain that even regardless of the shita, we're all talking about al-chaka over here, of not having to eat the two together. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. We still have to explain why you're allowed to have cheese after meat. We'll explain that separately. But the point is, regardless of how you hold, or whether it's the basar ben hashinaim, or whether it's shuman, it's to keep you away from having to eat the two very close with each other. But the Rambam says that the main point is the basar ben hashinaim. That does not apply when you're just having a chicken soup, when you're having schmaltz, when you're having the fat. Rashi says, well, fat is the fat. That's the whole idea. Is I have fat, it's still present there. It's being felt. It still lasts for a while. But if it's basar ben hashinaim, like the Rambam says, is the main reason, basar ben hashinaim doesn't apply when I'm having chicken soup. Anyway, the halacha l'maisa, the poskim hold like they both, and therefore I think I saw the haflaw, very important sefer writes that even if you had a small amount, just a little bit, you tasted, you swallowed a little bit of meat. Oh, you didn't have a whole chicken, a whole piece of steak. Still, you would still have to wait the 6 hours. But there's another posek that holds that if in fact you only tasted it, if it's salty enough or whatever, and you spit it out. Remember we were talking about kapela in Hilchos Taaruvot? Kapela, a cook, a chef. There was a difference there if you swallowed it or if you did not. Do you have to swallow it or not? Otherwise, maybe you don't really feel it. If you don't swallow, you don't always feel it. You really have to sometimes put in something into your mouth and swallow to really have the sense of, oh, this is a good drink, or this is. But so here he says, if you in fact only tasted it, but you did not swallow it, and you did not chew it, that is, you wouldn't have to wait at all. And I think everybody would agree with this, by the way. everybody would agree, since all you did was taste it, but you did not even chew it, and you did not even swallow it, no problem whatsoever. So, again, based on the halacha, and we will see the Ramah next time, we are adapting, for the most part, all the chumrot, all the reasons, and regardless, we always wait 6 hours. The other shitas, where they take it from, where is it? There's a sheet of 1 hour, there's 3 hours, there's a sheet of 5, 5.5, all the various sheets, where they take it from, we'll leave it on. When we come back, we'll look at the Ramah and look at the various other sheets.